Thank you for joining us for a very special series. I will be highlighting the power of metabolic health in the employee wellness space in this series of multiple episodes. We're going to be demonstrating the power of nutrition and community in improving the lives of employees in the corporate landscape. Our employee wellness program has been published in the medical literature. We've demonstrated a reduction in cardiovascular risk, a reduction in A1C, blood pressure, and weight, all while reducing the burden of medications. Despite these amazing results in the literature, they don't capture the patient experience. Today, we're going to be bringing you those stories. Today, we're going to be talking about Laitram and its CEO. Laitram offers very interesting perks to its employees. They have on-site gyms, on-site clinics, a pharmacy. They have personal trainers, physical therapists, and even dietitian-prepared meals. And this vision of wellness for its employees comes from its CEO. It's hard not to be inspired by him and his focus on employee welfare. Today, we're going to be interviewing Jay Lapeyre and how his vision brought metabolic health to his workplace and how our program has helped his employees. I hope you enjoy it.
The Louisiana company that invented a machine to process shrimp back in 1947 is leading the way in employee wellness and health care. I talked with Dr. Tro Kalajian of Dr. Tro's Weight Loss about what Laitram provides its employees.
We work with, all the different businesses there because it's not just that company. You have to sort of give people the tools so that they can sustain this at home.
Meeting health needs of workers.
We want to bring your services to the entire company. And so that was exciting to me because I know in the literature it's been published that a metabolic health program focused on nutrition, focused on low carb eating, intermittent fasting, it's been shown to save companies money. It's been shown to reduce the costs for medications, and patients absolutely love it because they lose weight and they come off their diabetes medications. So I was excited. Today, I'm happy to be talking with Mr. Jay Lapeyre Jr. He is the president of Laitram, and Laitram is a diversified global manufacturing company, and we've been working together for over 2 years now. Jay, along with serving on the board for Cato, has a MBA and a JD from Tulane, and he's also part of the Louisiana Business Association, along with some other not-for-profits. Jay, I just want to say, first and foremost, I've met very few people who are as invested as you are in the health and the welfare of your employees. We've gotten a chance over the past 2 years to talk with numerous CEOs, and not many companies are at the forefront of bringing metabolic health to their employees and health in general to their employees, empowering patients, empowering employees as much as you have. So one, I want to say thank you for coming on, and two, it's just been an absolute pleasure to work with you for 2 years.
Yeah, well, ditto from our end and working with you. And I would say that most of that that I get credit for is driven by that team. Frank Labiche does a great job of pushing the envelope. We all know we're going to step in a few piles, but we don't mind, kind of learning by doing, experimenting, and leveraging what works. And certainly our experience working with you has had a number of okay start, stop, and then, yeah, that works. Let's move on. And I think that's been a collaborative effort by both of us and worked out great. So we're really excited about it.
There's going to be CEOs, there's going to be HR directors who are going to listen to this. And can you talk about how a self-insured company aligns itself with the health of its employees? How is it that self-insured companies sort of view their employees' health?
Well, I would say that from a who pays the bill point of view, that's the point you're raising. And that's right. I mean, when people take care of themselves, when they develop a sense of agency for what they can do, motivation is wanting something and believing you can achieve it. And what most people don't get is the tools for what they can do to achieve something. So even if I want to lose weight, or if I'm not given what I'll call a game plan that I think I can achieve, then I give up. And a lot of what, to me, I think is truly malpractice in the whole diet game has been, peddling what is a one size fits all. And I think what you've done is identify the fact that everybody's system is different and everybody metabolizes differently. And it's the same reason reason that medicine works on some and not on others, and all those things. So people who are obese overwhelmingly tend to have a carb intolerance, and telling them get tougher, work harder, do whatever is just not a viable way for 99% of people. So what I thought was important was both from the manage your health and the cost side, but mostly from the agency side. When you think any part of my life is hopeless, you're not going to be the same engaged person at work, and you're not going to bring your best every day, and you're not going to be thinking about how do you set an example for others. So
one of the things that you've taught me sort of over the past 2 years working together is, it's so much more than just healthcare costs. And you've opened my eyes to things that I would have never known: how happy somebody is in their job, how productive they are in their job, how empowered they feel. What hit me, after meeting over 150 of your employees, is that many of these people have been at Laitram and Interlocks and these companies for over 10 years.
Many of them for 20, 25.
Yeah, we
I've
talked to
never
one of
seen a
them.
company like that.
When I asked the question, it wasn't only about finance. It was also about sort of what it means to empower your employees to reach their potential. That's the culture that I sense there that I have not yet seen at many of the other companies that have come and talked to us.
Well, I think you've hit the core of why I'm so driven by these ideas, because if people feel that a part of their life is hopeless, they lose control, and they're not going to bring that same ownership and agency to their work. And yes, happiness matters, but happiness depends on achievement, and happiness depends on pride, and it depends on that sense of confidence that I can deal with the future. All those things are interrelated. I mean, that to me is the 80% of it. The health side of saving cost is the small part. The big part is people get excited when they can get control of their lives on a problem that they have wrestled with for a long time. And that's the case for many of these. And they develop a sense of gratitude, which I believe is the most underappreciated self-interested virtue. The idea that when I'm grateful, I don't spend my time thinking I'm a victim. I'm spending my time thinking, okay, what can I do to take advantage of what I have? And all that's tied. So you're dead right.
There's a culture that I've seen at your companies that I really hope other companies can create, because there was many other programs that started before us, and we talked a little bit with Frank Labiche, your HR director, about these. It sounds like 10 years ago it was, how do we get our employees clinics, and then it became, how do we get them gyms, and then it came Weight Watchers, which it may have not worked out, or it became dietitians. But there was always the sense of how can we empower them and keep empowering them and make it easy for them and make health attainable for them. And that culture is not easy to create. And now I view us, it's sort of as like the capstone, so to speak, to that, where we've touched 150 lives. The average person, has lost about 35 pounds in this program, and that message is spreading. So talk to us a little bit about how do you create that culture of wellness, because companies are not doing that. And you are the only one in the country who's giving out CGMs to their employees, giving out, discounted ketone meters to their employees, who has 2 CrossFit gyms. I mean, so talk to me about this vision of creating a culture of sort of health and wellness and metabolic health.
I think what you just said is right. It's just an additional piece to the idea of owning my life and bringing my best every day. And you can't do it if you're in pain, or you're debilitated, or you're carrying too much weight, or you're constantly struggling with something. So, and I think your program of the continuous monitors is a breakthrough. I'm obviously a layman in this, but my personal excitement about what I'll call a low carb diet began 35 years ago, whatever it was. I'm 15 to 20 pounds lighter eating whatever I want than I am when I'm suffering eating carbs, and I'm trying to reduce calories. My wife, on the other hand, has no issue with that. So it made me seriously reflect that if I couldn't do it, and I'm a pretty disciplined dude, then the odds are that most people can't. And oh my God, what about people who are a lot less tolerant of carbs than I am? They must really suffer. So that was all the excitement I had about combining this. And my frustration was until we found Nina, and she connected us to you with her book, and we started developing a program, I didn't see a path to instantiate this in a way that would be useful. So to me, it's just a continuation of that culture. Now, when did that begin? We wrote our principles in 1987. So I've been through a few drafts, and my first draft was 160 pages, and we've got that down to a 2-page outline. So that gives you the idea of how we capture the essential.
So what was your expectation? I mean, I have to be honest, we did have some publications at the time when you reached out to us first 2 years ago. We had about 5 published studies at then. And I was upfront with you and I said, this is a little bit new for me. I know I can affect the people walking in here, but if you look at the employee wellness space, it's a disaster. Weight Watchers never had any lasting effect. And I told you, I'm scared. And I wonder what lasting effect we'll have. And the beauty of the way we sort of constructed this 3-way partnership, you, me, the patient, all working together, is we have tracked everything. And some of the data that's come back has surprised me. So when you started this, and you sort of took a risk on a practice like us, what were your expectations? What were you hoping for?
I thought it would knock it out of the park, and that's what's happened. I am absolutely convinced that extremely heavy people will do better with reducing carbs. And the glucose monitor, that principle that you had, made me think, oh my God, we're going to get real-time data that's going to show them what's going on. And what I was not as familiar with, and not any at all familiar with, was how you could manage the worst cases and manage to get them off of meds and reducing meds and doing all that. And to me, that was a fabulous breakthrough that surprised me with how much we could do. And as you also know, when we spent a lot of time collaborating about, okay, how do we scale this? Because I think it's the crowd that doesn't have the answers, but could self-manage before they become what I'll call too far gone to deal with it on their own. And I think we're seeing that as well. So I think I don't know how many, but we have, several hundred people on the glucose monitors. And I think that's going to continue to grow. And I don't think they'll need them indefinitely. I think it's one of the things where once you learn, you got it, and you start to realize, okay, and then I have a tool for managing my weight the way I would, and I'm happy. Happy's not a bad thing, Tro. It's part of the whole purpose, right?
I can tell you happiness is exactly what we see. We get to touch your employees' lives, their loved ones, their families, and a lot of these people's lives have changed. And the fact that, their employer paid for it, taking away a big barrier for them. And I think that's been meaningful. And there are some people who don't need all the bells and whistles. All they need is a couple of meetings, a community, and a CGM, and they'll take care of it on their own. It's been just absolutely amazing to sort of work with all these people.
Well, I think I would say that for our employees, the vast majority know that if we're promoting something, we believe it, whether we're right or wrong, and they know we're thorough. So they believe that we're diligent about research, and they believe we're telling the truth. Now, that doesn't apply to everybody. I'm sure there are always skeptics, but 2 elements that made it was the fact that you could train it and make it clear. And all I got back from people was, that was a great session. Tro did a great job. His team does a great job. They help us understand, and they see it through my eyes. I resonate to that. And the fact that we're supporting it, I think it's less about money and a lot more about the fact of credibility that, okay, this is worth trying. And then they try. And then when they get that instant feedback, they get pumped. And that's what you get, is this excitement that comes. So you've got a whole bunch of evangelists, running around the place that are pretty pumped up.
Yeah, you think you tapped into it early on in this conversation where you said that when people are hopeless, they have no agency. And then if you give them agency and you give them the right education via CGMs, via webinars, via all that stuff, then they get hope, and then they have agency, and then they can make sustainable changes. And yeah, it seems like it's the perfect storm of good information, hope, and feedback, like biofeedback with the CGMs, with our webinars and things like that. But what's been the feedback from some of your employees in terms of their lives, their families' lives?
You guys know probably better than I, but I mean, they're euphoric. There's some lives that truly, it's not just a case where, gee, I've lost some weight and I'm off some meds. No, it's my life has changed. I can play with my grandkids. I can, exercise. I can do something I never even imagined. The idea of walking around the block was impossible. I was jogging, last week, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's just just incredible. Now, everybody's got a different story, but the stories are similar in the sense that people are saying it's life changing. Now, we still have a number of people who I don't think have taken advantage of it, and I think that's going to be a continuing growing development. But I think that's mostly because every time they've been told something works, it's temporal. They see that, they see people. You have a lot of people who are skeptical, and then you have a lot of people who feel that, well, I might as well try one more thing because I've tried the last 15 and none of them work, so I'll keep trying. So I think you have both elements, but the people who are program veterans, I would say overwhelmingly feel that this has a major impact on my life.
Two of the barriers that we saw and we anticipated were going to be the Southern sort of food culture, but I think we worked with some bakeries in the area. We worked with some of the pizza, places in the area to be able to get people to know where they can get food made with quality ingredients. And the other biggest barrier was doctors. It's the food and the doctors. Some of the doctors were very grateful to have our help, and some of them were concerned, who is this group from New York reversing my patient's diabetes, taking them off medications? But I think both of those challenges we overcame. We've interacted with doctors from Tulane, Toro, Ochsner, and we've had overwhelmingly positive feedback as time has gone on. And we're continuing to show those results in literature, so I think the feedback has just been more and more positive. I cannot thank you enough for coming here and talking about this. If there's a CEO or an HR director out there, what would you tell them to be like the first step to bring metabolic health, to bring this culture of wellness? What should they do?
I think that they should study up and learn about low carb to begin with, because there are two ways of getting people excited about metabolic health. One is to build it the way we did all those years, meaning build the agency and do all that. The other is just to be able to find out some things that give people far better tools. And I think you can jumpstart a lot of this by saying, here's a great tool and you can use it and you can learn from it. This gets you out of the one size fits all. A lot of people will get excited about this if they practice it. And don't be dissuaded by the skeptics. I can tell you that we have had articles written about us and they compliment the company and they compliment your program, but they say it's not the diet. They say it's the wraparound services and this is coming from. So there's a big pharma, there's big ag, there's a lot of forces that are involved in sort of perpetuating what I think is, for most people, an honest mistake, who they just rely on the wrong sources. And for other people, I don't believe it's honest. I just believe it's all about pushing the status quo because it works for them financially. So
maybe the place to start is exactly where you started, reading Nina Teicholz's book. That may be one of the place to start.
Or look up a video of her or of you, because I think those are great tools. And once you get it, the concepts are not hard. I'm a layman. To me, a few simple principles cover 90% for most people who are not at a serious state. And once they get that, they can start saying, okay, if I get that and I get a monitor, I will learn at rocket speed, period. So that would be my advice.
If you're interested in bringing metabolic health to your work environment, to your company, please visit drtro.com or reach out to our practice.